When you think about random drivers in racing, John King definitely fits the description. He went on to have one of the more unusual careers in NASCAR in a relatively short period of time.
Well, Rick, it's an interesting idea to make your first ever start in the Camping World Truck Series right at this racetrack, but for John King, it was a no-brainer. He comes from Kingsport, which is right up the road. He's been running dirt races all over, but last week the news got out that he was going to be here tonight, and guess what? His phone started ringing. About 400 of his friends are in the audience right now. They're going to be rooting for truck number 46.
John King grew up in Kingsport, Tennessee, where his racing career began around 2006. He raced in late models for a few years before joining Bill Elliott's driver development program. He was decent, but nothing too spectacular, as he only scored 2 wins in all of the late model series combined. He made his truck series debut in 2010 at Bristol, driving for Danny Gill, scoring a solid 15th place finish.
Those guys were battling that lap traffic 2 times across the start finish.
Whoa, Jason. The hole closes as you see Austin Dillon go through, and now around goes the 16. John King sideways. Caution flag will fly.
But as you saw from his debut clips, he had a tough time keeping the truck under control. In his first couple of seasons in the truck series, he made 7 starts from 2010 to 2011. In those 7 starts, he raced for 3 different owners: Danny Gill, Ken Smith, and even at one point, himself. During the span of starts, his best finish was his Truck Series debut, and in those 7 starts, he DNF'd in 3 of them. Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he signed to drive for one of the longest tenured teams in the Truck Series in Red Horse Racing. You can also mark this as one of the most random hires in NASCAR history. Red Horse Racing had a stacked lineup for the 2012 season. Todd Bodine, a former champion, Timothy Peters, who scored their last win at Daytona in 2010. Those two have pretty good resumes for Truck Series drivers. Then all of a sudden, for your 3rd truck, you decide to throw in John King.
Well, he's a new driver to this team, the 3-truck team for Red Horse this week, but as I went up and down pit road, I checked on multiple different strategies. A few guys went with fuel only, lots of right side tires, but guess what? The 7 went with 4 tires on that pit stop, and even though they're back in about 28th now, it really sets them up to have differing strategy as we go later in the race. They can come in later and get just fuel only and get some track position.
It's also important to add that this start at Daytona was his first ever on a super speedway. He was definitely going to be riding in the back really throughout the race and eventually lean on his teammates when he needed them the most. Nobody's really expecting him to do anything, so all he really has to do at this point is stay out of trouble.
Oh, sideways, got to crash in the
33 of Cale Gale into the wall. It looks as though he collected the 8 of Mike Skinner as well. Damage to both of those trucks. Real time as they're coming into the tri-oval. It's the 7.
It's the 7 of John King. Another one of the red trucks that moved up the racetrack into Cale Gale.
Even though he had all that space on the bottom, John King kind of drifted up to the middle and couldn't really hold his line. Even though he caused that wreck, he was still in the thick of it in the final 10 laps. His teammate Todd Bodine would not leave his back bumper, and his other teammate Timothy Peters isn't too far behind either. Once another caution came out inside 5 laps to go, all of a sudden John King is sitting inside the top 3.
But how about John King? Brand new to Red Horse Racing. He's in that 7 truck, but he's driving the very same truck that Peters used to get that win. Chassis 140 went to victory lane, and John is in that truck. Todd Bodine's going to line up right behind him.
Oh man, this is unreal. It's I always come here as a kid. It's neat to finally be here, be able to drive. It's unreal, especially if they're in the middle of a practice session. You hear the cars go by, you're like, what was that? But it's pretty awesome to drive into the tunnel and see this whole deal. It's so big.
It was an unbelievable run, but what was also unbelievable were the amount of wrecks we were getting inside the final laps. There were so many wrecks inside the final 10 laps that it was to the point where we had to do multiple green-white checkers in order to finish the race. John King has as much help as one teammate could get, a former champion sitting behind you and the teammate who won this race 2 years ago in 4th as well. The only one who is standing in the way of an upset victory is Johnny Sauter.
Oh, around goes Johnny Sauter. John King got in the back of him, and Sauter goes into the wall. He'll collect his teammate Matt Crafton as they come to the start-finish line. We will have another restart. John John King, Todd Bodine, Timothy Peters, Joey Coulter, Justin Lofton. They're your top 5. Look at your race leader. Obviously frustrated, had a chance to win here at Daytona.
John King was going to the outside of Johnny. No, he just got a hold of his back end from the wrong angle.
Yeah.
And turned him sideways. Todd had rooted his way down to the bottom of the racetrack, and there's 2 Thor Sport trucks clobbering each other. The last thing a owner wants to see is his trucks running into each other.
This is what he had to say about what just happened with him and Johnny Sauter.
Golly, I mean, I flat frickin' wrecked him. No one's mad at you, not even the driver of the 13 truck. It's a product of Daytona Racing, and we came to win this thing. So we are sitting as the race leader on the final attempt of a green-white checkered. And I need you to nail the gas when I tell you to, and we're going to keep the left side tires glued to the yellow line.
Sauter might not have been as angry as he should have been, but it still happened. John King just caused his 2nd wreck in the race. All of a sudden, it was a potential 1-2-3 Red Horse Racing finish on the line. With only a few trucks left in the field, John King led them down to the line with 2 laps to go in the final green-white checkered attempt.
John King's doing a great job, as Terry Cook told him. Left side's on the yellow line.
Dillon, he decides the outside line might be the way to go.
Look at Tom Bodine. He's coming back. He's got pushing from Joey Coulter, and they're making some ground.
Now moving off of the bottom of the racetrack as they come into the tri-oval.
Right here. Stay on the yellow line. They're trying to make something happen up top here. Stay on the yellow line.
Jason White, and around they go. That will bring the caution out as Joey Coulter goes flying into the catch fence just past the start-finish line, and that will mean John King will win at Daytona.
Maybe the least experienced driver we had in the field.
John, pass them. John, pass them. Slowly, gently pass them. Pass them, pass them, pass them, pass them, pass them. There you go. Big Daddy, come here, get this checkered flag. That's all yours right there, my friend.
And the checker.
Get that checkered flag. Okay.
John King, a winner at Daytona International Speedway.
And just like that, John King is officially a Truck Series winner. What just happened? That's exactly what I asked myself watching this race live as a middle schooler. How somebody who entered this race with no top 10s whatsoever and wrecked different parts of the field twice all of a sudden was a NASCAR Truck Series winner. But that's not the end of it here. Once John King won, his name was officially trending on Twitter, but it also caught the attention of another John King, that being the one on CNN. He saw his name trending and didn't know what he was, so he ended up inviting NASCAR driver John King on a show. Prior to this race, he was a relatively unknown driver, and then all of a sudden he's thrusted into the spotlight. But how did the rest of his time over at Red Horse Racing go outside of Daytona? The next race at Martinsville looked as if John King could hold his own. He was at one point 1 lap down, but after getting the lucky dog, he was fighting his way through the field.
You see, it's just stacked up there. They're all into each other. It looks like maybe Miguel Paludo may have got into Max Gresham just a little bit, but he was being pushed from behind by John King, and he was being pushed from behind as well.
The end result was a 9th place finish. Not bad considering you were 1 lap down earlier in the race. The other good news was for the 2nd consecutive week, John King was the NASCAR Truck Series points leader. But after his first 2 starts of 2012, things began to unravel both performance-wise and financially.
Smoker, the 7 of John King into the wall, the inside wall, as they were going down the backstretch. Thunder Alley here at the Rock, and a lot of damage to our point leader, John King.
Yeah, that may not be terminal, but it's going to be close to that.
Coming off of turn 2, got sideways, pointed right to the inside.
Just broke loose with him, Phil.
Yeah,
and
right
you know
by
how
himself.
You've driven here before. You know how easy that is to have happen. These guys will battle that lap after lap, trying to keep these trucks straight up off the corner.
This will be our last run this session. Hey, we crashed. We touched. I wanted to pass him and I got loose. I'm real sorry.
Oh, 7 of John King into the wall. A lot of damage to that race truck, and the caution comes out once again.
He's just sideways.
Yeah, all by himself there. Yeah.
Wow. Look at that truck behind him. What a great move.
Yeah.
Imagine going from first in the points 2 races into the season to after just 5 races, you're officially out of the ride. For John King, that's exactly what happened. Red Horse Racing announced that it was indefinitely suspending operations of the 7 truck due to a lack of sponsorship. This meant that John King was out of the ride over at Red Horse Racing and was left to fend for himself once again. The rest of the season saw him make only 2 more starts at Kentucky and Phoenix, where he DNF'd in both. The only times you saw John King in the Truck Series after 2012 were in the season opening race at Daytona. He raced for Eddie Sharp in the 33 and Bob Newberry in the 20 in both 2013 and 2014. John King hasn't made a single start in the Truck Series since then, and his career totals amount to 16 total starts with just 1 win, 1 top 5, and 2 top 10s. The Daytona win was the height of his career, but was also matched with an equally steep decline afterwards, making him one of the most random drivers in NASCAR history. And once again, that'll do it for another video. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is Black Flags Matter. Catch you next time.